Chào mọi người quay trở lại sau giờ nghỉ trưa. Mình tên là Thanh Tuấn, hiện tại mình sẽ là MC cho phiên buổi chiều ngày hôm nay. Thì mở đầu phiên buổi chiều thì xin mời ông Tim Pechersky, nhà sáng lập Peeramid Labs với bài chia sẻ là Beyond the Audits, vì sao doanh nghiệp và người dùng cần tính nói trong tiến trình giáo thức. Welcome back from the lunch break. My name is Thanh Tuấn. I will be your MC for this afternoon program. So, to start our afternoon session, please welcome to Tim Pechersky, founder of Peeramid Labs, to present Beyond the Audits, why enterprise and user need avoid in protocol evolution.
Hey everyone, is this mic on? Yes. Hey everyone, hope you're having a great time and had a great lunch, and I'm happy to kick you in next sessions. By the way, do I have a remote for the slides? That would be very helpful, thanks. All right, so my topic is why enterprise and users need voice in protocol evolution and why it is the ultimate form of security assurance. Topic's super important since we have all of the stable coins coming out there, and it's an actual responsibility to do the due diligence for what you're actually going to build. So without further ado, we all know that due diligence and compliance is very important. We all know all of the steps of SecOps, Red Team, incident response, and audits. But while I was telling this, did you notice that this picture actually is not a yin-yang? And it's actually something absolutely different. So that's the same question about the protocols and underlying infrastructure. Is it actually what you think about it, or is it something else? And whatever you're doing today in application level, it's only as strong as a foundation level. So every institution today wants to know what are the end-to-end security guarantees, what are the risks beyond audits actually, and one of those is a very important one is actually how the protocols are governed. This is one of the strong things which used to be in a narrative and still is a narrative on Ethereum, that it is very big community of developers actually contributing. So for companies and enterprise institutions, one of the risks are actually that you might have this kind of different blockchain crazy events, like ETH Classic is example, where basically it splits and well, it cannot go unnoticed on your assets, and pretty much nothing to fix at application level. It's nothing broken there. It's a problem higher in abstraction. It's Ethereum like a history book. It's like, I really enjoy that I can speak about like DAO hack and fork happened there. It's like a history book, but some of the chapters you don't really want to get written at. That's a thing. So sometimes we actually want to, we often want to avoid the centralization. And the centralization in development of protocols, it means that sometimes this guy standing here deciding for your project, the future, is actually someone centralized, perhaps a developer or core contributor. And there are some risks you can assess on that. And like, basically they can deny you features. That would be very simple way to describe that, or they can be like lobbying. Let's say your competitors want to have something different on the protocol, bugs, mistakes, and backdoors, whatever. How do we assess that? Well, and actually, how does it happen in practice? So one of the things we had in our practice was this recent 7702 EIP, which broke a lot of significant, it created a lot of risky, complex things to analyze, and it was a significant upgrade to wallet infrastructure, basically. And while we were developing our own, we actually started to looking at what actually happens. So this is a link for the EIP. For most developers and tech folks here, they already know that. Not very visible on the slides, I guess, but basically the process for developers, core developers in Ethereum, when they try to assess, okay, what will break to others by implementing this new protocol feature, is very, well, they basically have to go to the GitHub and say, well, we think that there are no projects that will break by that, which is like not a very convenient way to like actually run the blockchain protocol, which promises all of this immutability, because that feature actually can change something in past invariance. So what we were doing, basically here you have like this huge GitHub query of finding the vulnerable code, which helped us to find like 2,000 files just on GitHub, which like was quite, probably there's something wrong maybe. And the process basically was looking through like finding the vulnerability, reporting it to the developers, and this is what in EIP process is called a review stage of the EIP, which is community run. It led us to fixing the EIP with some subtle but very important changes on the specification to make sure that nothing breaks for those protocols, which we were not sure about from the very beginning. And some of those protocols, they even don't know that we found that for them and fixed. That's the craziest thing. It's very community-based. So in this use case, case study rather, what are the causes? Why it happened that it went to multiple calls with core developers, multiple stage of the reviews, and it was noticed by a party which didn't have really a stakehold in reviewing that. We were just doing that from our own casual excitement. Well, the thing is that like if you take a look on the protocol standard, it's actually 4 authors, and if you go to the Magicians forums, it's just like 80 distinct users who actually were contributing to the discussion. Obviously there were more, but this is like quick metrics I could pull up for this slide here. And there are no really direct AIP review incentives for security firms unless you work with them directly and ask them to take a look on your project protocol in the context of protocol upgrades. And well, I'll skip maybe. Yeah, I'll try to go quick here. So basically, what can we do about that on a protocol design level? How do we make sure that the companies, institutions do the better due diligence? And also, how do we just, get better with that? And, knowing that it will become more complex over time as protocol becomes just generally more complex, not as simpler. Well, there are a few no-brainers, which I can usually recommend to my customers would be, you can join Enterprise Alliance for Ethereum, which is really the least thing you can do. You'll just be in the same boat with other enterprises around that problems. You can get if you are an R&D or if you're running R&D, you can get them research budget to actually participate, and it's actually very good for their growth and expertise and personal skills. And then you can contribute to the public good software development, which is nodes, infrastructure for Ethereum. A lot of us already are doing that. And this is why the Ethereum community generally is so great. And well, you can delegate it to someone, just ask to do it for you. But it is very important to think that that is one of the important parts of the due diligence actually to do if you're running a big project. But these are just no-brainers. Can we do anything smarter really than that? So I really like Daft Punk, so I think we need to always do something that is harder, better, faster, stronger. If you know the song, so we should make it harder to game the system, make harder to actually upgrade the protocols in a wrong way, which is led by few interests rather than majority. We need better standard management tooling, communications, and we need to discourage centralized development. The decentralized organizations, DAOs, actually is a great example of that. If you know Polkadot, I'm a big fan of what they're doing, trying to decentralize it to the DAO space, or layer 2s in Ethereum, like Arbitrum and others who are actually run as a DAO, right? So what we are trying to do here, actually, when we thought about this, how do we actually treat the problem and what were the causes for that vulnerabilities we disclosed? We got excited about, okay, what are the metrics actually? And what are the metrics, let's say, how many authors are there on Ethereum? How do they contribute? How many of those authors actually are getting accepted to the finalized stage? how many of those are getting rejected, and start to gather this information. So this is a project we're doing right now. Small disclaimer, as I'm speaking, we're finalizing crawling new data set there, so the data might update and it might be not the cleanest right now when you see, like this table is clean, but some others like last night might have some changes. So, but the core idea is we can actually, and it's very interesting, this is a place of Ethereum improvement proposals or protocol improvement proposals, which actually is very fragmented, but it is a very basic common layer where we can actually collect a lot of protocols together, whether it's like SUI ecosystem or Arbitrum or Polkadot or Starknet or Ethereum. They all have this foundational paper, even like Bitcoin has BIPs, Bitcoin improvement proposals. So we can actually aggregate them on the same dashboard and see how they correlate to each other, how they, how they compete on this decentralization of core development. So that's an idea about the project. Vitalik is Prince of Crypto who has concerns, right? So we actually analyzed what is, how many proposals created by individual authors, what are their success scores, meaning if they create a proposal, what's actually rate of then being accepted to finalized stage, and what is their influence over the protocols, which we expressed simply in amount of finalized proposals out there versus total proposals out there. And we clearly can see, let's say, for Ethereum, it's actually a very versatile ecosystem. There is a lot of contributors. So even like, say, Vitalik's share, he is like around 13% for our estimations. So this data is aggregated for EIPs and also roll-up improvement proposals repository. And for the Ethereum itself, it's like 14.3. Right, so we're not limiting here with Ethereum. Our idea is to develop this as a public data set, which will be available to analyze for different infrastructure, different ecosystems. And we're really curious to compare how other layer ones will look in the context of that compared to, say, Ethereum. And another option, like another to improve and help is to improve these metrics, which we see in this project, is to actually help the process itself, to make it more streamlined, actually have some place where you can easily do the request for proposals. So that could be bounties for academia, researchers who could just go and look for what the protocols need to be researching. And gives at least like basic collaboration and editing tools, because when you're creating EIP today, you're basically having to check the CI/CD and GitHub to see why your PR to EIP repo failed, which is not necessarily all of the researcher folks must know how to do that, right? So what we're doing there is basically creating a state machine for EIP lifecycle process. And we're trying to also, create this provisioning for the future where ecosystems become very mature. There's a lot of customers. So we actually need to have some kind of like NPS score, which would be traditionally for Web2 software as a service business, to the blockchain protocols. How do you actually make automated feedback, and net promoter score systems for the for that kind of. So if you're doing something in that direction, please reach out. Very excited to talk about that more. And I'm 3 minutes early. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I think we have still like 3.5 minutes.